Welcome to Season 2, Episode 13, Baby Cakes. If you thought me not liking the CMC because I don't like children characters means I'm going to be very annoying this episode with the baby characters, don't worry. For some reason, I'm not nearly as upset with baby characters as children characters. I could not tell you why. As for this episode, it's our Pinkie episode. I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other for it, so let's just get into it. Also, yeah, no bad friend point. I don't think anyone here deserves it. Twilight is close, but she's also fine for the most part. We join this episode as the main six are all at a hospital to view some babies, which sounds a little weird, but it's not, I promise. They're specifically here to see the Cake's new babies. Also, we learn the Cake's full names, which is neat, and I never actually noticed on previous viewings. It's Cupcake and Carrot Cake, which is which? Pretty sure Mrs. Cake has cupcakes as her cutie mark, so I'll assume she's Cupcake, and Papa here's Carrot Cake. This is the Cake's new son, named Pound Cake. Pound Cake is also a Pegasi, which I think will be addressed by the episode, so we'll wait a few minutes for that. They also have a new daughter, who is Pumpkin Cake, who, yes, is a unicorn. Again, I think they'll explain it. If not, I'll get to it soon. Side note, this is the exact same fur color as well as like onesie that the pony on the left of Pound Cake was wearing, but this is to the right of Pound Cake, but the hair of the one to the left was pink, whereas this one is orange. So I'm not sure if that was a screw up or if that was just a very similar pony baby directly next to the baby that's this one's brother. It's confusing. Everyone being surprised or concerned with Pinkie jumping into the nursery is expected, except for Rainbow, who's just like, yeah, I expected this. Woo, Nurse Redheart! I think it's her first appearance, or at least it's her first speaking role. Pinkie's trying to party in a nursery filled with sleeping babies, once again demonstrating a lack of situational awareness. It's one of her few traits from Season 1 in the first season that does stay consistent, but she does actually demonstrate in other episodes in Season 1 that she does have some social awareness, with her not wanting to see Fluttershy be scared due to her sensibilities. So Pinkie is a bit more complicated to write than we might think, a delicate balance that probably explains why she was done so dirty and isn't properly handled. Nurse Redheart takes no crap from anyone disturbing babies and kicks Pinkie's booty to the curb. Pinkie giving back the stink eye like she isn't breaking the rules and regulations of a hospital. Not even unreasonable ones, but just simple things like don't disturb sleeping babies. Okay, yeah, Applejack is the one to ask, quote, how in tarnation is one of them a unicorn and the other a Pegasi, end quote. She doesn't say tarnation, she says some other weird word, but it's basically tarnation. So Carrot Cake here explains that his great-great-great-great-grandfather was a unicorn, and Cupcake's great second aunt twice removed was a Pegasus, which tells us basically how pony genetics works. As long as a unicorn or Pegasi is in your family line at literally any point, you can now technically have that offspring appear in your gene pool, even if you're both Earth ponies. So basically, cheating in this world would be super easy, because color only needs to appear once, and same thing with race. You can do it with whoever and just claim, oh, it's in my family history, you don't have to worry about it, unless you're part of a purist group that only mingles with your own species, but that doesn't seem to be like something that happens in this universe as much, at least not in the show that I'm aware of. We saw last episode that the races used to only mingle with their own kind, but since the unification, it's probably a lot more unheard of. Pinkie doing more rule breaking, but ignoring that, Rainbow explains that once a Pegasi's wings develop enough, they start flying around like crazy, and Twilight and Rarity explain that unicorn babies can get inexplicable magic surges. Some good insight into the early development of young ponies. It's been 1 month since the Cakes were born, and I don't know about you, but as we discussed in the comments previously, we haven't reached the 1 year anniversary for Twilight yet, but we've gone through at least 2 seasons with Fall and Winter, so 6-ish months, and we're cutting the timeline very close for that 1 year. That being said, I'm way too lazy to go over every time skip we've had and for every story arc. Like Rarity's Canterlot episodes was like 4 days, and there were some other episodes dealing with similar timelines, but some episodes take place on a single day, allowing multiple episodes over a single week, but also some episodes that take place over almost a week, with now us having a full month time skip, which would be 7 months. So I'm assuming we're probably around the 8 to 9 month, if not 10, if I had to hazard a guess for our current timeline. I haven't looked forward enough to know when the 1 year anniversary is, but if it's not in season 2, that's going to be a little bit less believable. In fact, it might be in season 3 if I'm remembering the events of season 3, but season 3 is it's hard to remember it because it's so weird and different than the rest of the series, both being shorter and just having, I don't think I can remember a single episode from that other than like the finale and the intro. I'm sure I'll remember when I get there, but for now, I'm just moving on. The Cakes having probably one of the best ponies to babysit, just living and working with them, is probably a godsend. They'll be able to keep working and still keep an eye on their kids while also knowing they're being taken care of, all sweet and stuff. Of course, no one else thinks that way, and I'm going to be proven wrong pretty quickly, but it should be nice. If I randomly gloss over large chunks of the episode, not that you would notice probably, but if you do, it's because it's a bunch of baby nonsense and I have nothing to say about it, such as Pinkie playing peekaboo with literal infants. People like to say Pinkie would make a good parent, at least from what I've seen in the past, but she's the fun parent and doesn't like any of the responsible parts, so she would need a responsible partner. Thank goodness we have so much time to find one of those, and definitely not going to pair her with a clone of herself. Anyway, being a pony parent must suck worse than a regular one since you have to use your mouth with changing diapers. So unsanitary. Carrot Cake washing his hooves like he didn't just use his face for everything. Pinkie keeps thinking the cakes are talking to her instead of their actual children, which does make the cakes themselves slightly concerned, since she's again focused entirely on the fun part of babies and not the gross adult stuff, like, feeding them, changing them. I don't remember exactly, but I think this is a responsibility episode for Pinkie. Makes the most sense based on all the setup. They really play up Pinkie's need to party like it's a drug or obsession, which, I mean, it is an obsession, but good lord is it bad here. Can't even let the infants eat without getting impatient for playtime. Pound Cake already likes to pound things, which makes me question if names have actual power in this world, similar to other universes where a name can give power or take it away, depending on the universe. By naming your child Pound, are they destined to want to pound things? Everyone always has fitting names for their marks and interests, so instead of being like a standard design choice for making a show, what if it's actually because the names are magic and control the fate of the ponies in their lives? What, too much? Oh right, the cakes are doing the comedy and pretending that they can't hear Pinkie nor understand the basic fact that Pinkie desires babysitting, because they're leaving to find a babysitter, despite the fact that Pinkie has been doing it this entire time. They don't trust Pinkie, do they? Not for doing any of the responsible parts of care anyway, right? The cakes are going around to all of the other main 6, but why include Applejack on this? She's probably the most busy, with only Rarity coming even close. This whole segment is just a long drawn-out joke that starts funny, gets old, then becomes funny again because of how committed they are to said joke. Yeah, they don't trust Pinkie at all. Not sure why the babies don't need diapers anymore for some reason. This is the exact same day and they definitely put them back on. Okay, yeah, so it's exactly as I said. The cakes are anxious that Pinkie isn't responsible enough to actually take care of them and will only try to play with them constantly. They directly say, quote, "There's more to taking care of babies than playing." Diapers are back. I haven't been watching closely enough to know if it's been inconsistent the whole episode, but I'm enacting diaper watch. You know what? Never mind. I'm not doing that. And the babies immediately cry without their parents. Expected. How shall the Pinkster handle this? With a fourth wall break in fear. Great start. While the infants are crying about abandonment, Pinkie tries to play peekaboo, which starts with abandonment. Great work. Doing good. Pinkie tries stand-up to stop the crying, which works temporarily as the babies are just super confused. The babies are apparently very cognizant as they register Pinkie's missing dog joke as a parallel with them missing their parents. Or they think she's so unfunny that they're crying for a new reason. I'm familiar with that one. Much to everyone's dismay, I will not be reviewing the Pig Oinky song. Shocker, I know, and I'm just as disappointed as you. It's simply too complex to be broken down in anything less than 16 hours, and I simply don't have the time. Oh, okay, they do just hate this so much that they're gonna cry? Pinkie somehow taught the babies cringe before potty training. The classic babies think physical harm is funny, so the character is gonna intentionally cause destruction and self-harm to bring them joy at their own expense. We've all been there. Kidding, of course. They stopped crying, so Pinkie just accepts it and moves on with her list. Pinkie displaying the most unnatural and messiest possible way to eat to babies. She really needs to get some critical thinking skills, or at least some foresight. Pound Cake gets mad at his sister being upset for not being allowed to eat cloth, which is adorable, of course, but they also are strangely aware for babies. Kidding about my previous kidding, she does immediately resort to self-destruction when they cry again, which of course works, and Pinkie's apparently upset about it. Not a fan of slapstick, apparently. She also claims to, quote-unquote, see where this is going, more fourth walling, but also maybe taking my advice and using some foresight and critical thinking, maybe, hopefully. Just so we all know, Pumpkin seems to have what I'm gonna call teething or maybe nursing before the teething even begins, or before I think even nursing begins. Basically, she always wants something in her mouth, and I'm not sure where the pacifier is to take care of that. It's quite literally the job of the pacifier. Anyway, as for Pound, he always hits and smashes things. I think I brought that up earlier. Well, she managed to calm him down with bubbles this time, so yay, no violence. I am once again simply kidding. The bubble popped, and I think all the crying is just directly linked to the abandonment feelings they were having without their parents around. So the bubble popping made it quote-unquote go away, so then Pinkie's just like, wait, no, duck! And she throws a duck at them. This is a metaphorical throwing of a duck this time, not a literal throwing of a duck. Metaphorical is the wrong word, it's more of a symbolic? She just gently places the duck in front of them. I don't know what to call it. But she then overloads the bath with items. Damn it, Pinkie, learn moderation at least a little bit. Pound, despite being a Pegasus and an infant, is apparently already strong enough to break metal pipes. They aren't the most sturdy thing, to be fair, specifically the ones attached to the bath, but it's still a baby. Maybe the earth pony blood's doing something? And Pinkie is running out of ideas. She falls back to the flower, which is even worse now because she's wet. One of the nice things about this episode is we do get to see a lot of different varieties of Pinkie. She's not just the happy-go-lucky fun time. Now we've seen her upset, stressed, angry, agitated, disappointed. You know, we're seeing a good variety of Pinkie this episode. Yep, she be gooping now. The dreaded diaper change. Anyway, it looks like Pinkie actually got Pumpkin the pacifier, so nice job, Pinkie. Speaking of diaper change, I feel like unicorns would make for great nannies. No touch, no fuss, they just use their magic. It'd be great. Also, the baby's playtime is just pounding blocks while Pumpkin watches. All she needed was her pacifier to be placated and not chew on everything in sight. I am also aware that she's not actually chewing because I don't think she has teeth yet, but I don't want to say what she's actually doing because it just sounds weird and like even with context, I don't like saying it. Funny joke. Moving on. Once again, wishing I had a good friend chart for moments like this, but Twilight finishes her work and actually comes over to assist Pinkie. Base Twilight. It would be way too much work to go back and try to do like a retroactive good friend chart, but I really wish I just started something like that from the beginning, but I did not think of it at the time because this was mostly just making fun of how bad they are at being friends sometimes. But I need to actually like remember to give them kudos and when they're doing good friend things. And so Twilight thinks the same as myself and the cakes. She doesn't think Pinkie is the type of pony to handle this responsibility. I'm still annoyed at how they treat Pinkie, but she's exclusively demonstrated this to be true so far. Obviously she's gonna throw a fit here and try to poop herself though, so let's see how she does at that. And this isn't like the greatest thing for Twilight to do in terms of what she's saying, but everything Pinkie has ever demonstrated, said, or done points to this being an obvious conclusion. And it would be completely fine if Pinkie was like, yeah, I'm not that great at it, but it's fine, I have help. Like that would be a perfectly reasonable way for the story to go, but we're not going that way. We're going with the Pinkie is gonna be responsible, she's gonna be great, which is also fine. Yeah, Pinkie's allowed to be upset at not being thought of as responsible and allowed to try and prove that wrong. Just as much as she would be allowed to be like, hey, yeah, you're right, I'm not doing great, I would love to help. Don't be afraid to accept your flaws. Just wait, it is what it is sometimes. Good, Pinkie, good. She reflects that she hasn't been handling things well and resolves herself to improve. Fantastic step not writing her to just be indignant without introspection. This small few seconds alone would do a lot for Pinkie's character, but it will probably be forgotten or ignored later. But it's still good now. Oh, hey, Boneless. Hanging out with the nieces and nephews, huh? I just mean this in the same way that a best friend could be an uncle or aunt, not anything actually related to blood or family trees. Pinkie becomes stern, which is really strange for sure, and maybe what's needed here, but how will she handle the inevitable tears? Or will there even be tears? There's definitely gonna be fallout of some sort. She puts them in the same crib, which would normally be strange, but given that their parents are not here, keeping them together probably helps with separation anxiety, so I'll accept this as a good decision. That being said, she also just tries to command them to sleep, so some good, some bad. And it totally works! The babies totally aren't super genius masterminds plotting against Pinkie in the slightest. Dear God, they're gone. Pumpkin wanted Boneless back. Reasonable, he's a good listener. Pinkie does that clicking noise you sometimes use to call cats, you know, which is not only weird, but they don't animate it great, so I thought it was like the house creaking at first or something, but you can barely see her mouth like jitter while it's happening. They frame the last 30 seconds of this as an old school horror movie, only to reveal Pound Cake is on the ceiling. As we learn, the duo have both started to manifest the problem traits that Rainbow and the Unicorns warned about, the flying everywhere and the magic. I don't know how she does it, but Pinkie's voice actor does a weird Twilight voice instead of the Pinkie voice. So convincing, in fact, that I thought it was Tara Strong. So I went to go check if she actually voiced Pinkie at the same time, but no, it's a completely different person. Maybe for this one episode she did, but I don't think so. I think it was just a weirdly similar coincidence. Pumpkin ends up wanting her stuffy from her crib and is straining to reach it as Pinkie brings Pound down from the ceiling, showing why you probably shouldn't have put them in the same crib, or maybe have thought about this and brought it over. I don't know. So Pumpkin manifests her magic and grabs all her stuffed animals to make them fly for her. Adorable. Fly them right into her mouth. Come on, really? That's dangerous, but also insulting to Boneless. Does he not taste good enough? He's like chicken. Pound can already carry Pinkie. He's basically as strong as Fluttershy. He's only 1 month old. Okay, Pound drags Pinkie around for a while, so he's actually probably stronger than Fluttershy. Pumpkin wanted to play with Pound but couldn't get uppies, so she gave herself uppies. Unicorns are bull, man. I don't even think Twilight ever levitates herself. She usually just teleports instead when she needs to move. She might have like one moment sometime in the future, but I don't think so. Pumpkin also just creates basically a new spell that allows any object to become permeable, and she just walks through the wall. I know full magic is stronger before it stabilizes, as we learn with Flurry Heart several seasons from now, but these two have to have some crazy potential, right? I also know that the stuff with Flurry Heart was specifically about her specifically, and not a generalization, but we also hear from Twilight, Rarity, and Rainbow about how powerful the magic stuff is early in life, and how it's troublesome. Yeah, Pound also just tears the trap off the ground. Also, Pinkie trapped them, which isn't great babysitting, but that was really irrelevant given how ridiculous the babies are at this point. Pumpkin then destroys the presumably steel or iron chains Pinkie used to lock away her animals. This is still a horror movie. Ignore any of the peppy music the show tries to use. And finally, Pinkie now breaks. She can't handle the responsibility, but honestly, these babies seem way too self-aware for her to be majoritively at fault, as we'll see in a second. The babies just show remorse and sadness at Pinkie's, distress. They then pull off the flower stunt that Pinkie did to try and make her feel better like she did for them. They are terrifyingly aware and understanding. It's also super cute. We have reached our letter to Celestia, and it is thus, quote, I always thought that playing with little kids was fun, and then I thought babysitting meant more playtime, right? Wrong. Being a caregiver is a lot more than just being a playmate, and I learned that sometimes our desire for responsibility can outrun our ability to actually handle it, end quote. Pinkie found out her limits and accepted that instead of trying to push herself to be more than she is. Sometimes boundaries are simply that. Not everything everything can be pushed to its limit, and you shouldn't overstress your mind and body to accomplish something you're just not cut out for. Well, unless you really want to, I suppose. But Pinkie doesn't. Also, Pinkie cleaned up everything after the fact and did a great job, so we're proud of our Pinkie here. Good job. Pinkie never wants to babysit again, claiming she'd rather be their playmate and couldn't handle the responsibility as well as she made them think. But then Pound and Pumpkin say Binkie Pie, so she says, you know what, sometimes is fine. I'll do it sometimes. And that was Season 2, Episode 13, Baby Cakes. All in all, this is a fine episode. It explores Pinkie decently well. It gives us a more varied look at her. It doesn't treat her great. Well, I mean, the episode treats her fine, but the other people in the episode don't treat her great. But they end up being proven right, and she kind of agrees with them at the end, so it's not the worst. I think this is just going to be another 6. I think we've just hit a string of solid episodes. Nothing majorly bad, nothing majorly great, just good episodes. So yeah, bunch of 6s in a row. See ya.